A big thank you to Jero for sponsoring today's video on Patreon. Meren of Clan Toth versus Valgavoth, and Jired. This is 2 games in a row that I'm seeing Valgavoth, as some famous Magic the Gathering guy just released a video about this or something. Anyway, might just be coincidence. Let's mulligan a 1-lander into a 2-lander with a sack outlet. And that can make the guy's cradle tap for mana, so I'm not happy about it, but I think we keep this one. A turn 1 Sol Ring from Valgavoth number 2. And we managed to draw into another land, that's good. So let's go for a duel for the Viscera. Sterling Grove is going to give enchantment Shroud. So is he going for some kind of Aura's Voltron build with this? And a turn 2 Valgavoth thanks to the fast mana. We don't have any turn 2 plays to make whatsoever. We did draw into... We've got Dire Sight in the Magic the Gathering sets. There's another version of it now with Spider-Man as well. I can't remember the name of it, but obviously we've got the Omen Paths version here. Another enchantment in Branching Evolutions, so a plus counters build to buff his commander and more easily swing in. And Painful Quandary, that doesn't feel good, although we don't mind as much discarding stuff in a Reanimator list. But he's really going off with that Sol Ring. As punishment for the Legal Quandary, a Tybalt's Trickery is going to counter that. There is a Bedevil, Fear of Burning Alive, and a Seance board in the graveyard here. But manages to get himself into a Harsh Mentor, which is much less scary than the Painful Quandary. And as punishment, eats some commander damage from Valgavoth. Now we are going to lose life, unfortunately, into that Valgavoth. We'll hold off on the guy's cradle for as long as we can if we keep drawing lands. I wonder if we maybe want to get Eternal Witness going with the Meren next turn. Then we can start building experience counters and getting consistent lands with the Misty Rainforest. The life loss does play into Valgavoth, but nothing we can do about that. Let's just go E-Witness. And we'll aim to get down the Meren next turn. Golgari Naturalist. He's setting up all this enchantment stuff, but not doing too much with enchantments at the moment and only 3 cards in hand. Looks like Jared's going to need a little bit of luck. Both the Elder Demons are in play now. That's another scary one, Phyrexian Obliterator. I am playing at the weekend, so we're getting some more strong opponents this time around. Shriekmaw isn't going to be too useful to us this game, I don't think. More life loss on our side of the field, so looks as though we're just going to have to stick with the plan of Misty Rainforest, sacrifice Eternal Witness into Meren, and get at least a little bit of something going. So Misty Rainforest triggers both the Valgavoth's Harsh Mentor. Is going to deal 2 damage to us as well. So the life gain on Grey Merchant is going to be relevant, I think. Sterling Grove being sacrificed for a tutor, giving up on the Shroud. And I bet he's going for some graveyard hate. I can't read that. An Aurification, I think that's supposed to say. It's not a rest in peace, at least. As much as I don't like it, I want to fix the colours, so we'll have to shock in an Overgrown Tomb here, go down to 34, play the commander. It's noteworthy that we didn't necessarily have to go for getting Eternal Witness going. We can sacrifice Viscera to its own ability and then reanimate it, but we get a bit more value here. So activating another ability, Harsh Mentor, is going to hurt us. I think keeping hold of Shriekmaw to blow this up next turn is going to be an idea, but we get our first experience counter at least. Scry Spore Frog onto the top. So Meren has to target the E-Witness and bring it back to hand. The Aurification enters play, so the Naya player is going to be more difficult to attack now, unless we want our stuff to be turned into defenders. Ruby Medallion going to make the red spells cost less, and that is a Spell Shock. Whenever a player casts a spell, 2 damage to the player. And No Mercy is another Pillow Fort card, so that's 2 players we can't attack. Takes 2 damage in order to trigger the Valgavoth over here. I'm just wondering if we need to start getting into as many experience counters as possible, as fast as possible, and then play Grey Merchant and keep cycling it. Does that mean that we have to look at Warren Soul Trader and use it to trade out our other sack outlet? Okay, our opponent's scared of Meren, so we take 6 commander damage. At least he's not swinging in with the 5/5. So I think we're going to have to be reliant on this Spore Frog if our opponents are going to be looking in our direction. With a guy's cradle, Spore Frog pays for itself. So let's get that down. We're going to take quite a bit of damage to the Spell Shock here, which plays into the hand of both Valgavoth players. And we definitely want to see the back of this thing, I think, so Shriekmaw for 2 mana, and then we can float mana, that'll be 4 and 5, so we won't have the mana for Grey Merchant, unfortunately. So why don't we go Warren Soul Trader, we can sacrifice the Shriekmaw for a treasure before it goes down. But we're down to 22. I think we do need to start abusing this Gary as soon as we can. Invoke the Shriekmaw into play and shock ourselves again to the enchantment. So we want Evoke on the stack first so that it resolves last, because we don't want to be blowing this up with our activated abilities before the Harsh Mentor goes down. So make sure it's destroyed and then sacrifice it to the Warren Soul Trader for an additional mana, and that will get us our second experience counter, but we're down to 19. Then do we want to sacrifice Viscerous Seer, 3 mana into Eternal Witness? Then we could sacrifice Eternal Witness and get that back as well. Yeah, I think we kind of have to try to speed things up a little bit here. Turn 5, but it's Magic Online. Thankfully the Valgavoth only triggers once a turn. Play the Eternal Witness, which will shock us down to 16. And I'll grab back the Shriekmaw just in case, even though we're against Rakdos players. And after that we can sacrifice Eternal Witness in order to make a treasure token and get ourselves another experience counter, more importantly. And that means that E-Witness can now be reanimated straight from the bin with Meren. And Meren does manage to survive, so get through to the end step, reanimate E-Witness. And let's just grab back the Viscerous Seer, because it's going to add to our Devotion to Black, as well as pay for itself with the Gaia's Cradle. And we will leave it at that, hoping that we survive another turn cycle. But it looks as though our opponents don't have Terminate or anything like that in hand, otherwise I imagine they would have used it on Meren so that we couldn't get the reanimation stuff going. Which suggests that they can't do anything about our Spore Frog for the turn cycle either. A Defense of the Heart, this is a high power game. I asked for bracket 3, but it seems as though it's a fairly evenly matched game on Magic Online. Not sure if this is a game changer or not, but it's the type of thing that is going to get the Naya player back in the game out of nowhere. So combat damage from this would be 8, but we're facing down a Commander and the Phyrexian Obliterator, so we might have to just take half of our life total from this. Razorkin Needlehead cares about card draw, so he's going to generate draw pain for us. And yep, comes in at us, they're worried about combos and stuff, we're just going to have to take this. And then pulls back, hopefully. Alright, does not swing in at us, that's really good. Oh, her Axonil, that's one of the damage doublers. If a red source you control would deal any amount of non-combat damage, it deals damage equal to Axonil's power instead, so basically this is going to be dealing 4 damage to us instead of 2, which is exactly why we grab something like the Shriekmaw. That'll be the first spell we cast next turn, although we're going to take damage to this as well. So yeah, it's not looking too hopeful for us. 4 damage from the Needlehead onto the Rakdos player who has 9 cards in hand. Oh, that's noteworthy. The way this is worded, it's not combat damage, which after all these years, I've never noticed that. Whenever a creature deals damage to you, destroy it. So the Needlehead is going down, that's good. Yeah, I always thought this was combat damage. Both of our opponents have a Shivan Gorge available to them. 3 and tap deals 1 damage to every opponent. A Bontu's Monument is going to start draining every opponent. Ideally we would get to keep the Spore Frog in play here, because our opponents don't want to force us to use it. They might think that all the pings are going to get rid of us, which they very well could. A card Doom Scourge forces players to attack. That's unfortunate, so we might have to rely on the reanimation from Spore Frog. It is going to turn things into Defender if we go in over here, so that actually switches off Carder, so it might actually be worth making use of this thing. Play Sword of the Animist, he's plummeted down to 23 life thanks to this thing. He might as well swing in here, because unless there's some haste that enters, no one can attack him thanks to the demon, and even if they do, no mercy is going to deal with the creature. So, okay, it does allow us to keep the Spore Frog. We're likely going to lose that to combat now anyway, but that's going to be 9 points of commander damage over the head of the Naya player, making it so that this thing now has Defender with the Aurification. Okay, Command Tower means that we don't have to play the Ancient Tomb this turn, that's good. Fixes our black mana as well. So just drop that straight away. And then I think we just need to cast one spell in blowing up the Oha Axonil, because we are going to continue to take spell shock damage, of course. I'm not drawn into any means of removal. There's plenty in the deck, but I haven't been able to get rid of the enchantment so far. So we go down to 10. And again, evoke on the stack first. Destroy the god. Now this guy is deciding if he wants to do something to us as punishment for getting rid of that. I mean, we're kind of being forced to, aren't we? There's a bolt bend, so it changes the target. Might be that if it's changed to this, then we can keep our Spore Frog this turn at least. We can only target non-black, non-artifact creatures with this, although it can target our own stuff, so it could go after Spore Frog or E-Witness. Decides to destroy the Eternal Witness. Let's float some mana. That doesn't take away from our devotion to black at least. If we decide to go Viscera Seer and Grey Merchant, then we're going to lose 8 life. Is it worth it for the extra couple of points of life? I don't think so. So let's just not sacrifice the Eternal Witness or the Shriekmaw into the Warren here. We do get another experience counter. And then the Shriekmaw dies into the Meren as well. And we'll just have to go for the Grey Merchant. Pretty much all we've got going on here. Screw it, let's go Viscera Seer. We'll gain the life back. So Spell Shock takes us down to 6 because it deals 4 damage to us. And we'll use the floating mana for a Grey Merchant. So down to 2, but hopefully this lands and nets us a bit of life back. Would have been nice obviously to sacrifice this and reanimate it again, but I think we're going to have to reanimate the Spore Frog. We go up to 17, which means we gain 15. So if we gain 15 again, we're going to be at 32. Yeah, it's probably not good enough. Well, whatever. I have to go through to combat now. Swing everything into the left against the 2-2. And this guy is definitely going to have his Defense of the Heart activated next turn. Blocks the Spore Frog as we thought he would, but does take 6 damage. So an attacking creature has died, we each get drained for 1. And gold counters are put on our creatures so that we don't have to worry about being forced to attack in again. Other creatures died, so Meren likely has enough experience counters for the rest of the game at this point. The question is 31 life going to be enough to survive the next turn cycle? Probably not, but I don't see many other outs here. So sacrifice the Grey Merchant. We get a Scry and another XP counter. And that's probably going to be way too slow now, so bottom of the library. And at the end step, Meren is going to bring back the Grey Merchant, which triggers again and bumps us up to 31 as we worked out correctly. And we'll just pray that that's enough. We do have commander damage to consider as well. Now, what can our opponent get with this Defense of the Heart? Assemble the Legion, always a fun one. Takes him down to 9. So if we can survive, this Grey Merchant becomes more and more threatening. Cryptolith Rite bumps him down to 5. Didn't look at what he searched out previously. It was the Heliod the Sun-Crowned and Nykthos Paragon. Only one card in hand. It might be that he just has given up here. 2-2 swings in against us. It is lifelink. So it somewhat makes sense. We just block with the Grey Merchant. Loses his creature but goes up to 7. And then we get drained by the Carder. Plus counter with Heliod. And plus counters with Nykthos as well. So these things immediately bumped up to a massive 9-9 and a 10-12. And Heliod can give the 10-12 lifelink, but will he survive? Not likely. Still trying to deal with us. That is a 4-4 commander with trample. And an 11-11 is 15 damage. Now can this guy get us for 15 next turn? It's quite likely. If we block this, then we're only taking 11, which is 19. So then 11, 16. We can chump block at least. Yeah, I might just block this thing because it has trample. Although so does this. Yeah, I have to block here because I don't want to block this. I block like that, we go down to 19. Then we take 16 to these and chump that. And hopefully survive. That's about all I can work out here. It's not likely. And I can't sacrifice this to blocks because the trample will get through. Otherwise you would make the block and then sacrifice for a free scry or whatever. So we're on 11 points of commander damage. Even though there's 2 Valgavoths at the table, you do get separate commander damage because they are separate cards for separate players. Commander damage is tied to each command zone. Carder played here as well. Pretty rough matchup against the 2 Valgavoth players. That guy decides to scoop, which can make a difference against things like Carder. Luckily we're not really looking at attacking anyway. But that does mean that this guy has to swing in at us, which we were expecting him to regardless. Now I'm not sure if we can survive while not playing any spells next turn, thanks to Spell Shock and the God. This guy has to be careful how many spells he casts as well. Mogis is going to deal 2 damage to us unless we sacrifice a creature, which is going to reduce our devotion to black. And we get drained by the monument, which doesn't help. Very much not looking hopeful. We drained our opponents down quite a bit though. We did play our part in the game. But this has definitely been the one that has dealt most of the damage. And us having to attack in at the other Valgavoth player thanks to Carder will take out all our devotion as well. Or a chunk of it thanks to the Mogis now being able to block. Decides to take a chunk of damage just for a Rakdos Signet. So now we have 12 damage from the commander, 5 damage here. There's trample, so we can't block that. So we're going to be down to 17 if we block the Carder. And this thing does not have trample, so we can sacrifice in response to the blocks. We might as well. But we're going to be down to 1 damage here. Tear Asunder. Not going to be good enough, I don't think. I just don't see how we survive this. We'll put it on the bottom and hope that we draw into something. Although, that would have dealt with the spell shot, but we just can't cast anything now. We're very much reliant on the Grey Merchant, which won't do enough anymore. So 1 black creature, or any creature at all, is going to drain us out here. He's got 6 cards in hand. And also Mogis is going to force us to sacrifice a creature, so that reduces our devotion even more. Yep, there we go. Rakdos, Lord of Riots. That's enough to deal with us. I don't think there's any better way I could have played this game, so I don't feel too bad about going down here. Valgavoth is ridiculously good. I did manage to get a flyer into play, so all he really has to do is get rid of Rakdos and swing in. Doesn't matter if he loses his commander here, or he could just keep his spell shock in play long enough to force him to cast spells into it. Goes down to 7 to the Mogis. Had to take 2 damage there. Does decide to turn everything into the right. The 2 gods blocking each other. And Rakdos blocks. Okay, taking damage from the commander here. He could have survived there if he'd taken damage from the Carder, but he'd be down to 1, so it's not likely. Oh, of course, he's got the Shiv and Gorge. So had he have taken damage here, the Shiv and Gorge would have dealt with him. But anyway, goes down to the mirror match. So yeah, that was a fun game. Valgavoth, like I said, is really, really good. So I don't mind going down to some very powerful Valgavoth lists. Had we have just faced off against 1, I think we could have tangled with it quite well, but going up against 2 in the same game is, yeah, pretty crazy. Hopefully you all enjoyed this revisit to an older commander. A lot of you say that you like it when I revitalise older commanders, so here we are. Massive thank you to the very few of you who support on Patreon. You're the sole reason that I'm still doing this during a period of little to no one watching, so thank you for that. I'm TribalKai. Thank you for watching.